I did come last year. I had a wonderful, wonderful time. I met some people. I visited with Mike last night at the ball game. And as you all know, the trade deadline's coming up, and he and I are racking our brain. Our general manager's racking his brain. He's got all his right-hand guys with him, and they're trying to figure out ways to trade and make our team better. And Mike and I were in there. We're thinking out of the box and coming up with all these great ideas. And I'm sure Dayton's going to hear them tonight. But
we'll probably be fired.
We will both get fired because they're so stupid. They're so far out of the box. He's never thought about some of the trades that we're going to propose tonight. But he told me a story about a guy named Ben. Ben Avery. Where's Ben? Ben, you've had a tough road, haven't you, pal? Huh? You made it. You made it, didn't you? I'm proud of you, pal. You do that with a good faith, don't you? And you do that with dedication and hard work. And Mike said you're getting better every year as a baseball player, and with hard work, all you guys can get better. There's no doubt in my mind. I come from a very modest background. My parents didn't have a lot. Mike came from the same situation. How many brothers and sisters did you have?
Eight in our family.
He had 8 in his family. I was the youngest of 4 boys in my family. And I remember growing up, my dad, my coaches, my mother, all my brother's friends, older brother's friends, all said I wasn't as good as my brothers. In football, I wasn't as good as my brother John or my brother Ken. In basketball, I wasn't as good as my brother Bobby or my brother Ken. In everything that I did, I was not as good as my brothers. And the hardest thing I ever had to do was when I was inducted in Cooperstown in 1999, and I saw my 3 brothers sitting out there watching me get inducted. I said, all I ever wanted to do was be as good as you. Guys, that takes hard work. It takes hard work and it takes dedication. The one thing I learned last year as a coach for the Royals, was coach for 2 months, a hitting coach. When a coach offers you advice, do not take it as criticism. He's only trying to help you. Last year when I was a hitting coach, I tried to offer these guys advice. I would preface everything by saying, if I was you, I would try this. They would try it. It wasn't uncomfortable, and that's the extent of it. Okay? So when a coach gives you advice or your parents give you advice, listen to them because they're looking out for your best interest. There's no doubt in my mind. My father gave me the best advice I've ever been given, and he said, George, and this is the day I graduated high school. And the day I graduated high school, it was very similar to Mike Sweeney. I jumped on a plane and started playing baseball professionally. Was I scared to death? Of course I was scared to death. I was 18 years old. But my dad gave me the best advice I'd ever gotten in my life. If you're going to do something and you don't know if it's good or bad, you don't know if it's right or wrong, ask yourself one question. And one question only. Would you do it if your parents were there? And if the answer is no, it's probably not a good decision that you're going to make. So if you remember one thing that I told you today, and you're going to be, the older you get, you're going to be put in situations. You're going to be around drugs. You're going to be around alcohol. You're going to be around a lot of things. Ask yourself one question. Would I do this if my parents were here? And if the answer is no, it's probably not a good thing to do. So with that, Mike, I think, Dunn, you want me to answer questions? Or
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Brett?
Yes, sir. You didn't have a question. That's a good question. Yes, sir. 320.
Wow.
Yes, Ben?
How many hits did you get?
3,154. But that doesn't tell you I made over 7,000 outs. See? 7,000 outs. So if you figure 500 at-bats a year, and I made 7,000 outs, that's 14 years in a row without a hit.
Oh, wow.
Okay? Yeah, Val. I didn't mean to, buddy. I really didn't. That was just one of those things where I didn't break that bat for about a month, and I kept using it, and I didn't wear batting gloves. I wasn't like Mike Sweeney and had the batting gloves and have to step out after every pitch and redo it. Those guys drive me crazy. They don't even move, right? They put their batting gloves on, they grab the bat, They take a pitch, they got to step out, and they got to redo it again. That drives me crazy. But when you don't use batting gloves and you're playing in the heat in Kansas City and other cities in the summer when it's real humid, your hands sweat a lot, and that's the way I could continue to get a good grip. Yeah, pal.
Did you ever complete the cycle?
I did the cycle twice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did you hear about Ben hitting the cycle yesterday, George?
No, you didn't, Ben.
Yes, I did.
Did you really?
Ryan told me that.
What came
So did
last?
Steven.
What was your last hit?
Triple.
A triple, that's the hardest thing.
Yeah,
I bet you've hit more home runs and doubles and singles than you have triples in your life, haven't you? So that's good going. Did you have to really hustle?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, triples are easy. Triples are really easy if you run hard out of first base. A lot of guys, they hit a ball in the gap and they just start jogging to first and they coast into second. And what happens if the outfielder goes over there and maybe he mishandles the ball a little bit and you run hard to first and you continue running hard to second and the ball's out in right center field or left center field, they still have to grab the ball, throw it to the cutoff man. But if you run hard out of first, it's amazing how many singles you can turn into doubles and doubles you can turn into triples. So remember that. When you hit a ball, just don't think it's a single. Make the outfielder make a play. Because if he bobbles it a little bit, you keep on going, it's a double. Yeah, pal?
I have to ask this. Did you ever consider your parents' advice in the minor game?
No, I didn't. Ben, you've already asked a question, haven't you? Yeah,
Dang, I forgot it.
you forgot it. Okay. Yeah, pal. When I first came up from the minor leagues, I was hitting 7th and 8th. And then when I started having some success, they moved me down to like 2nd. And then most of my career, I hit 3rd or 4th. There was a period I hit leadoff because we had nobody on our team that could get on base. And so Whitey Herzog, our manager, said, why don't you hit leadoff? We're going to try that for a while. So I did that for a while, but I'd say about 95% of the time in my career, I hit 3rd. Yeah, pal. I was a catcher my whole life till I was a sophomore in high school. Then they moved me to shortstop, or third base, and then they moved me to shortstop my junior year. But I caught all through Little League, all through Babe Ruth. It wasn't until high school I started playing a real position. They call it the tools of ignorance for a reason. Anybody ever heard that expression about catchers? They put on the catcher's equipment, they call that the tools of ignorance. Mike will attest. Mike was a catcher all through the minor leagues, and then they made him a first baseman. What's easier?
Catching was hard.
Yeah, catching's hard. And catchers got a lot of foul tips off their neck, off their arms, off their legs. They got to squat. First base, all you do is go like this and catch the ball. It's a lot easier position.
That's hard position.
Yeah, buddy. I only hit 2. Yeah, okay.
Finally got one.
You got it. How much what? I had over 200. I don't know if it was many over 200. I wasn't the fastest guy on the team. We had guys that ran a lot faster than I did. But, you play 20 years in the big leagues and you get 200. That's only 10 a year. Averages the 10 a year. But one year I had 20. And I never really stole. I would kind of just pretend like I wasn't going to steal. And the pitcher kind of wouldn't even pay attention to me. And I'd get a leadoff from me to Mike. And I'd be scratching my head, just kind of going like this. And then as soon as he lifted his leg, I took off. And it surprised everybody. Yeah. I think the best player I played with was maybe, I'm going to say Hal McRae, because Hal taught me how to play the game. When I came up, I didn't stretch singles into doubles. I didn't stretch doubles into triples. I didn't slide in hard to second base and try to break up double plays, and I think he taught me that by watching him. And maybe the best guy I played against was, I would have to say, Carl Yastrzemski. He's a Hall of Fame player for the Boston Red Sox. In 1967, he won the Triple Crown, which is most home runs, RBIs, and batting average in the American League. And I got a chance to meet him. My brother was a member of the Red Sox in 1967. My brother graduated high school in 1966. Graduated high school in 66. Was drafted by the Red Sox, and in 1967 was pitching in the World Series, and he's still the youngest pitcher ever to pitch in a World Series game. So the Red Sox were playing in St. Louis that year, And me and my family flew up to St. Louis to go to the game and some games, and my brother invited me to ride on the team bus with him from the hotel to the ballpark. And I sat with Carl Yastrzemski, and when you're 13 years old and you meet someone like that, it makes an impact on your life. And then all of a sudden, when I got to the big leagues, he came up to me and said, "Hey, I remember sitting with you on the bus. Good luck in your career." And I always followed him. After that, we became good friends, and so that's why I always say Carl Yastrzemski. Yeah. I got kicked out of that one, too. I got kicked out of a few. Yeah, pal. I did all right. Yeah, are you from Minnesota? You're glad the Twins won last night, aren't you? Yeah. Sweetie, make that guy run some laps. I saw you guys run out to the fence and back. You're going to have to do that around the whole complex. Anybody else a Twin fan? Huh?
From North Dakota.
North Dakota.
Wow.
Yeah, pal.
He's a North Dakota kid.
Oh, you're in North Dakota. Uh-huh. I had a son that went to school at St. Thomas. You know where St. Thomas is? In St. Paul? Yeah. He went to school there. Yeah, pal. The hardest team I hit against, for some reason, it was always Cleveland and Oakland. And when I look back, they were always cellar dwellers, you know. There were always teams in the bottom, except when I came up. But I really think the problem is you'd go to Cleveland and you'd play in that old, beat-up, raggedy stadium. The locker room was terrible. The field conditions were terrible. The stadium held 80,000 people. That's where the Cleveland Browns play. And yet you go there to play a baseball game in midsummer and there's 3,000 people in the stands. Oh, and then you go to Oakland and of course that stadium held 60, 70,000 people. And you'd go play the A's and there'd be 4,000 or 5,000 people in the stands. And I kind of had that attitude when you walked out there and there was nobody there. It was like, does anybody even care? And then all of a sudden I lost my caring and desire to perform, but whenever I played in front of large crowds, I seemed to do better. Yeah. I was number 25 when I came from the minor leagues in 1973, and there was a guy, number 5, that already on the team. His name was Richie Scheinblum. And after the season in 1974, they traded Richie Scheinblum, and our equipment manager, Al Zeke, called me, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to change your number to number 5. And I said, "Why is that?" And he said, "We just traded Richie Scheinblum, and there's a really good third baseman in Baltimore named Brooks Robinson. And I think you can be as good as him," so he gave me number 5. Couple more questions, and then you guys can get back to work. Yeah, cool guy with the cool sunglasses. Oh, I have no idea. I have no idea. They probably have stats for that now, don't they? Yeah. One more question. Yes? I'm sorry? I played in 13 All-Star games. 13. Actually, I played in 11 once I was hurt. Okay, one more. We played in 2 World Series. In 1980, we lost to the St. Louis Cardinals in 6 games. Or no, the Philadelphia Phillies in 6 games. Rats. And then in 1985, we beat the Cardinals in 7 games. And the amazing thing about that year, we weren't a very good team. Of all the teams I played on, that wasn't one of the best teams I ever played on. But the togetherness of the kids, or the players on our team, nobody was really backstabbing anybody when they did something bad. We played together. Everybody knew what their role was, and that's all they tried to do, was do what they were capable of doing. And that's another thing that when I watch Major League games, I see guys that are singles hitters trying to hit a home run. Just be yourselves. When I became the hitting coach last year, I'd walk up to the players every day and I'd say, "What's your name?" And I'd introduce myself. "I'm George Brett. What's your name?" And he'd say, "Mike Moustakas." I said, "Just be Mike Moustakas. You're not Barry Bonds. Okay? What's your name?" "Eric Hosmer." Be Eric Hosmer. Just be yourselves. You know what you're capable of doing. Don't try to do things you're not capable of doing. Okay? And if you just do what you're capable of doing, you will be a better player, and your team will win more games because you're helping your team win because you're doing the things that you do best. But if you try to be somebody you're not, guess what? you're not going to be very good. Okay? So, Mike, thanks for having me.
All right, George, would you mind if we sign one ball? We're going to give it to the saint of the
Not
day
at all,
today.
pal. Going to give it to who?
We're going to give it to the saint of the day today. Whoever has the best attitude today.
Whoever has the best attitude today, the saint of the day for the last day, is going to get this autograph. Game used. It was in the Major League game last night. George Brett, Hall of Famer, number 5. So I want you guys to be on your best behavior.